Creator VC is getting ready to put together In Search of Darkness, 1995 to 1999, the second part of their 1990s horror documentary, or as I call them, super documentary. And they are looking for suggestions as to what movies we would like to see included in this second part of the 1990s horror super documentary. Now, if you saw my previous video for In Search of Darkness 1990 through 1994, well, you know that I'm really not only into this, but, last time I got a little crazy. I put 10 movies in. They're asking for 5, and I'm going to abide by that this time. Actually, I already sent this in to them, but I thought I would just post it and see what you out there in internet land thought and what you would like to include or not include. Now, I'm obviously trying to avoid all of the sort of gimmies, right? The shoo-ins for this. Now, some of these or maybe all these will be shoo-ins for it, but I'm trying to go off a little bit off the beaten path and not go for the more obvious titles that you would find. Okay, so in my first video that I did, I went in alphabetical order, but this time I'm going to go in chronological order. And I'm going to start with a film that was mistakenly included in Search of Darkness 1990 through 1994. That would be John Carpenter's movie, In the Mouth of Madness. Yes, I mistakenly included that in the previous video because it wasn't released in the States until 1995. So, In the Mouth of Madness, Sam Neill, Jürgen Prochnow, Julie Carmen, David Warner, and Charlton Heston. Yes. As I said in the previous video, I never thought I would say Charlton Heston and John Carpenter in the same sentence. It is part Stephen King, part H.P. Lovecraft, and it's pure John Carpenter goodness. Do you read Sutter Kane? Staying in 1995. Ah, yes. Tales from the Hood. This is one of the great anthology films of all time. Clarence Williams III, Corbin Burnson, Joe Torre, Wings Hauser, Rosalind Cash, directed by Rusty Cundiff. Clarence Williams III just eats the scenery in this film. It has one of the greatest endings of all time. An ending that could never be duplicated in any of the sequels. I saw this in the theater, and I absolutely loved it, and I still do to this day. Next up, The Craft, 1996. This is an excellent witchcraft film. Robin Tunney, Fairuza Balk, Neve Campbell, and Rachel True. Of course, Neve Campbell, right around the same time as Scream. Great to see her in a slightly different role in this. More of the mean girl in it. And speaking of Scream, you have the connection between Neve Campbell and Skeet Ulrich. Just a solid film all around. Next up, we're going sci-fi horror. 1997, Event Horizon. Oh, yes. One of the great sci-fi horror movies of all time. Amazing cast, headlined by Lawrence Fishburne. And hey, Sam Neill. Kathleen Quinlan as well. It just takes you places you weren't expecting. It starts off as, I guess you could say it's almost Lovecraftian as well. You have the spaceship Lewis and Clark looking for the Event Horizon and going to the outer reaches of space. And what they find, oh boy, you really don't want to find what they found. Just a solid film, great soundtrack, great special effects, and just a hell of a ride. Next up, Halloween H2O, Halloween 20 from 1998. There's kind of a lot of connections here in these movies so far. We have a John Carpenter connections here, Sam Neill connections. There you go. So this is the first time Jamie Lee Curtis returned to the Halloween franchise. The first time since 1981 when she did Halloween 2, and it did not disappoint. The only thing missing was John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. I've always felt that this, paired with the original Halloween and Halloween 2, is the best Halloween trilogy you can have. The films are a perfect beginning, middle, and end. Steve Miner, who directed Friday the 13th, Part 2 and 3, directed this film. You have a great cast with a very young Josh Hartnett and Michelle Williams, just the early days of their careers. Adam Arkin and LL Cool J round out the cast. It is fun. Kevin Williamson did a great job putting this together. Again, connection with Neve Campbell, Scream. There you go. The only thing that's disappointing about Halloween H2O is that horrible poster. I'm not a fan of 1990s film posters, especially after Scream came out. They all look like actors' headshots. I mean, it's just there's no creativity. So I wish Halloween H2O had a better movie poster, but other than that, it's a great film. And every Halloween when it's on, I'm locked and loaded. Now, those are my 5 films, but of course, I'm a glutton for punishment. I have to have some honorable mentions. I would be remiss if I did not include Takashi Miike's film, Audition. It starts off slowly. It builds to a crescendo that is disturbing, to say the least. And it also has one of the great jump scares in horror history as well. Now, going from the big screen to the small screen, I'm going to mention these 2 TV shows because at one point I thought at their peak they were the best shows on television. Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The X-Files. One on the CW, which I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, was the WB. I think Buffy was on the WB at the time. And, of course, X-Files being on Fox Television. I'm going to start with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, of course. Joss Whedon, who created the series. You know, it's amazing because I don't know how many people remembered the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was very good horror comedy. But, I mean, this show just took it to a whole nother level. Of course, you have Sarah Michelle Gellar as Buffy. You have Nicholas Brendon, Allison Hannigan, Anthony Head, Charisma Carpenter, Christine Sutherland. I can't believe I'm saying the late Michelle Trachtenberg. You had James Marsters, of course, David Bourniers, Amber Benson, Seth Green, Eliza Dushku. There's so many people that were in this show. It was, like I said, when this was at its peak, this show, I would put this up against any show on television. The series had heart and soul to it. It had a lot of human emotions. It wasn't just some thrown together action comedy, high school show. If you haven't seen it, if you've only seen some of them, go find them. They're out there, but definitely check it out. And of course, for those of you that have seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. This show was just great. Of course, I had the spinoff Angel as well. What a great show this was. I have to go back and watch them. I didn't miss it back in the day, and of course now they're talking about reviving it. So who knows? We'll see. The X-Files, of course. This was part of Fox's, as I like to think of it, must-see Sunday night lineups. You know, back in the day, you had, The Simpsons seems like it's been on forever. But on Sunday nights, you'd have The Simpsons, Married with Children, X-Files, In Living Color, King of the Hill. I mean, I'm mentioning all these shows that were on different time periods during Sunday nights over those years. But X-Files was must-watch Sunday night television. And again, at its peak, I would put this up against any show on television. It had just a great cross between science fiction, horror. At times, some of the storylines were a bit soap opera-y. But David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson were great as Mulder and Scully. And, what a great supporting cast. Mitch Pileggi, William B. Davis as the cigarette-smoking man. But again, I'd say like for 5-6 solid years, The X-Files was just such a good show. There you have it. So please leave your comments below. I'd love to get your thoughts on this as well. And you can also find me right here on my other programs, the Graveyard Show podcast, where I've interviewed a lot of people from Creator VC, David Weiner, Ian Nathan, Robin Block, and Weary Pines. You can find all those here. And my other shows, Catacombs of Horror and The Caretaker Reveals, as well as the new Exhuming the Grave. What is that? You have to go find out. In the meantime, I'll see you again real soon.